Good evening, everyone. So it's a pleasure to be invited by RAI Group for this panel discussion and to be leading the topic based on digital transformation. So my question to the panelists is that what are your thoughts with regards to your role as a CFO when it comes to the digital transformation aspect from an organizational perspective? Yeah.
Okay, hi. I can still see the crowds, getting reduced. I think this is one of the most exciting topic. I was just thinking of putting so much, but I could see a very lesser crowd in that. Okay, so let me start with. So your question is actually I'll try to answer in two parts. One is from a CFO perspective. I think if I look 3-4 years back, our roles have got hugely changed. We were looking at an accountant, a bookkeeper, to a business partnership role. Now, somebody who is leading digital transformation. So that's something which, from a role itself, it has got changed. I will say it's more of environment which is forcing us. Second, from an organization perspective, I look at from two perspectives. One is, what is the intent of the management? How the management looks at this entire digital transformation. One is something which environment is forcing us to do. Second is how the industry is spanning around. So I would say the transformation, so far as all business is concerned, it's actually divided into two parts. One is more of internal facing. When I look at how my department, which is more from finance perspective, we have transformed. Second, from external perspective, we are dealing with the customers, which is more a customer interface. I would say from a internal perspective, so far as finance is concerned, I think in all the businesses, not only mall specific, I think we have gone paperless, and slowly we are getting into fintech. There is a lot of technology which is coming more in the BFSI sector. So from a banking treasury perspective, it has become completely automated. Right. I think from an accounting transaction recording, I think that's also, with SAP coming in, along with their different softwares like Ariba, etc., even the procurement model or the purchase model, that itself is getting automated. So that's completely automated. REFX, against from a SAP perspective, against automated. I'm sure we have, SAP on our board, so I don't want to kind of take, all the credit from here. He has his own, so that's one part of it, which is more internal phase. From external phase is customer facing, a lot of things which the environment has already given us. Say, for example, FASTag. You can get inside the mall within seconds. The frisking part, etc., it has got reduced. The face recognition, as one of my friends was actually presenting in the CMS, they have a stall here, but I just want to tell them we already have that face recognition inside our malls. We do kind of analyze, who is coming from where, and that also helps us in analyzing how the footfalls are coming in, helping the retailers to, kind of channelize our footfalls according to that. So a lot of stuff, probably I can talk more. I don't want to kind of make it a one-sided conversation. Yeah.
Sure. So I don't wear a CFO hat, but I've been running Zenatix for about 10 years, and we've been working on driving digital transformation initiatives for a lot of retail chains using technology, which is particularly IoT. Now, I think technology like IoT has been around for a long time, but I think one of the questions that we often get asked, and I'm sure CFOs ask a lot, is that what is the quantifiable and measurable benefit of any such technology? So I think that has evolved over a period of time, and certain use cases have emerged of this technology which have been deployed at scale by a lot of retail chains. I can talk about some use cases which we have been particularly involved in. I think one of the major use cases has been improving operational efficiency and sustainability. And particularly when it comes to sustainability, energy becomes a lot of focus for large organizations. Energy, a lot of us think that energy is a given cost. It needs to be reduced. But how do we reduce it? It's still a question mark. And that's where I think IoT sort of comes up and has become a global use case where, what you do is you connect your distributed operations over internet. So the major guzzlers like air conditioning systems, lighting systems, exhaust fans, refrigerations, a lot of this stuff is in retail. So you end up connecting them over the internet. and then centrally controlling them, centrally managing them. So, think of a scenario, you have 200 retail stores across the country. Currently, they're all sort of manually operated. But, the IoT technology allows you to be sort of a completely seamless operation where air conditioning systems, lighting systems automatically switch on, switch off, temperatures are maintained, comfort, compliance is maintained. You can actually, rather than recording the data manually, you have access to your guest comfort compliance on a click of a button. Or, because of the large amount of data that, IoT sensors collect, for example, we today collect almost 200 million data points every day. So you can use that data very intelligently to predict the failure of these assets at a lot of retail stores. So I think, that's a change that, sort of we have seen in adoption of IoT technology. And when it comes to a quantifiable and measurable benefit, it has sort of resulted into 8-10% energy savings with an ROI of 12 to 15 months. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think most important part from a business and from a CFO perspective, CFO is no longer a finance professional, right? He has to be beyond finance. It is considered to be like, we panelists was having just casual discussion outside, like we have a mother in the family, finance is the mother of the business. Okay, so that's how it is. The finance has to be diligent in anything that we do as a business. The business looks upon on finance for various evaluation, and that's where the technology helps. Technology takes care, it captures data so minutely and at each stages of the business. For example, if we talk about customer journey. So right from the ordering till the billing, what does he does on the application, whether he selects particular product, he discontinues certain product. There are a lot of CRM engines technology which helps to understand what is the customer behavior, what exactly he wants, what he looks for, right? So there is a data involved. Similarly, there are, like Rahul rightly mentioned, there are IoT solutions for energy savings. What does it does? It does, again, capture data, and it helps you to monitor and also control things. So optimize and take leverages over the cost. Similarly, you have similar IoT solutions on labor, which helps you to roster your labor for every hour, for every critical activity, have a right skilled person doing this activity. This is all about the data. This is what about the technology helps you to take right business decisions and put right perspective in front of business when you are evaluating anything.
Good evening, everyone. I obviously don't wear a hat of CFO, but I'm a finance guy. I'm a chartered and into technology, so I think I can bring a different kind of perspective here from a CFO role point of view. I've interacted with multiple CFO. It's my job really. When I want to position solutions, discuss solutions, and how we can add value to business. I think CFO's role has changed quite a lot actually. Over last 4 years, I would say 3-4 years. Post-pandemic, absolutely very different, absolutely. But it's not the case anymore where you just arrange for funding, do a working capital, accounting, compliance, and stuff like that. Actually, the role has become, it's like they are in a way intruding into various other departments as well. In a way, I mean, they're influencing other departments because. Finance is where every department's efficiencies and efficiencies reflected in a way, right? Because you look at P&L, right? I mean, you can find out what's happening in the business. And that's where the trigger point is there, right? I mean, if in case if you're inefficiency in procurement, right? The CFO is trigger point for procurement transformation, Nitin mentioned about Ariba. I'm sure, the efficiency or the result of Ariba is seen in finance quite a lot, right? Whether you want to, if the traditional model of procurement was right or wrong is no more debate, absolutely. Once you kind of decide on a transformation in specific department. So the role of CFO has transformed actually from a back end to really becoming a business driver, enabling the transformation across the organization. I mean, that's what I've seen. I've seen CFOs actually attending to a lot of technology courses. And I've seen one of the CFO I've interacted with, he attended a year's analytics course with Oxford, spent through, lakhs of rupees, and actually came up with a superb analysis of their business, which kind of triggered a lot of marketing, related initiatives started actually. So I think CFO has, a lot of power in it. The role can really drive the entire organization profitably, growth. I mean, there are lot, and they are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Right, great. Good to know. I would just want to understand what are the pre and post pandemic changes when it comes to the digital transformation journey that the organization or your current sector is having. Because it's good to see that there are a lot of changes that have happened during that phase.
I think I'll continue the conversation in that case. I think possibly it's connected one. So I've been running Inteliwaves for 8 years now, and I've interacted with CFOs prior and now, obviously. I think the erstwhile version of, I would say, even organization mindset also. It's not just CFO we are talking about. Of course, they are representation of an organization, really. Prior to pandemic, we were all focused on our day-to-day operational stuff, really. The technology piece was really a secondary piece in a way. It's just there, somebody from tech team will take care of it. It's no more kind of a business, as usual kind of stuff. It was something which IT team will take care kind of stuff. There were no cloud. If you remember, now we all talk about SaaS and cloud and subscription model and stuff like that. We didn't have kind of AI, ML kind of a buzz that we are working with right now. I think the mindset, the approach to running the business was very different back then, right? Talking about retail, I mean, e-commerce wasn't existent. I mean, I know for a fact, I've spoken with so many, retailers back then. जिसमें बोलता है e-commerce के लिए there is one guy just sitting there. You will just look at their orders on Amazon and download at the end of the day, kind of a thing. Whereas now, we need a real-time integration, right? Unless you have real-time integration, boss, you're not going to be in e-commerce space then, right? And of course, the market has changed completely now. The buying pattern has completely changed now. People are buying online quite a lot. It's an accepted model where people don't want to touch and feel really, or even if they want to, there's a hybrid model as well, right? I think the post-pandemic things have changed from the point of view of technology as well. Technology wasn't available back then, as much as it's available now. The options are quite wide. The integration was really pain back then. Now it's a lot more swifter. The access to technology, the cost of technology, TCO, everything is optimized quite a lot now, absolutely. So yeah, those are the 2 points from my side.
I think technology pre-COVID was always felt necessary, but I think post-COVID, I think what we see a significant shift in the approach and the speed of implementing technology. So earlier, obviously, there was always a cost factor which people used to think about technology, but I think what COVID and the pandemic situation taught all of us is to be like, nothing called everything went digital. Everything was video conferencing. It should be a contactless business, right? And that made everything to go towards digital. See that from a QSR industry perspective, let me put that what was happening pre-COVID and just see what has happened now, COVID. You go to any QSR industry, you will see table service scan. You don't need to go to the counter. You can, and this mobile handset has become everything for people in life. Everything is available. You don't carry wallets. You can make payments through your UPI through carrying a mobile. It shifted from cash business moved to UPI. Your entire QSR billing system moved from a POS or generating a manual bill, you get digital bills, right? There is a table scan. There is a self-ordering kiosk. There is an app. As I was mentioning, there are various other tools for the business to take right decisions. So I think it has just shifted gears, and you can see a lot of technology solutions all coming together in the same industry, and cost is no more evaluation factor.
That's true.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I think, the overall uptick of technology has been there post-pandemic. And I think there is a wide variety of technologies that have sort of come up in adoption. Pre-pandemic, it was, I think, a lot of business as usual. I won't say that there was not a focus on cost. There was a focus on cost pre-pandemic as well. Retail businesses are very tightly run businesses. But I think, when the pandemic happened, there was even a sharper focus on cost. And at the same time, I think there was technology consideration happening where people realize that they need to minimize dependency on human operations when humans are not available. So I think that has changed a lot of perspective. And as Samir said, it's just not a cost issue anymore. Cost is an important thing, but there are lots of other factors that have driven adoption of technology. I remember, I think during the pandemic phase, the IoT specific use cases went up significantly globally. And there was a particular use case around remote asset management that, how do you control your operations without having a lot of people in the field? So we have a lot of customers in retail, hospitality, where you need to see temperatures in your chillers, freezers. Can you, remotely switch on, switch off equipment? Can you see the usage of, consumption or usage of, different equipments in a hotel, and shut down the areas that are sort of not really required. So I think there has been even a greater emphasis on adoption of technology, and, multiple use cases have sort of picked up post-pandemic. And I think specifically after pandemic, there's been up and down in adoption we've seen, because the moment pandemic got over, everybody was sort of again focused on revenue. And then, there was like revenue, let's bring the business back up to normal. But now people realize that, look, pandemic can happen again, and therefore we need to be cognizant of the costs equally. So therefore, right investments need to happen at the right time. So yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, so I represent mall business, and I think I still don't want to remember those times. We were the first one to close. I think we were last one to open. So in terms of practically, cash flows were nil. I think the technology, from a technology perspective, the first thing was, of course, working from home. The entire world adopted it. So we were not the only ones. I think from a technology perspective, some of the use cases which we got into was, looking at the distance between two individuals inside the mall, finding out how many numbers of people are there inside the mall, whether somebody is wearing a mask or not. We adopted one technology which was a face recognition, but somehow we went into alternate use to find out whether somebody is wearing a mask or not. I think just to answer a few questions which everybody has raised. So one is, of course, from a cost perspective, when we looked at technology adoption before COVID and after COVID, I think the ROI part is missing now. I think it's a must-have or good to have. That's the kind of comparison which we do now. Efficiency has become a big play. Earlier we never used to look at efficiency because we always used to say, if I have to invest ₹1 crore, what is the kind of return on investment? Or are we utilizing it? Many of the times we used to implement technology in the systems, and unfortunately nobody is using it. So that became very important. I think the third point, which is very important right now, is people are actually working in deep to identify what is there, what exactly they need. What is the output which I expect. So something which I remember while we were in putting SAP in place, which is as is and to be state, I think the to be state is much clearer now, what exactly I need. So I think these are the few changes which I have seen particularly from pre and post pandemic, especially on the finance side. Yeah.
Sure. So I would just want to understand from Rahul that you were mentioning that there are a lot of changes that have happened, especially in the technology adoption stage. So how do we measure or quantify the benefits basically of these changes?
Sure. So I think, as I initially spoke, that, a lot of technologies which are sort of coming up, people have been hearing a lot about IoT, people have been hearing a lot about AI. I think the, most important question, again, on the implementation comes that how do you measure the benefit, right? I agree with Nitin that, while I think the focus on ROI it's not a simple 0 or 1 that ROI is there or not. I mean, of course, there is ROI, but ROI is equally important, for implementation of large-scale initiatives. So I think, for measuring the benefit of any technology, I think a very focused approach is required in our experience, and it starts with sort of benchmarking of, your existing state of operations. How do you benchmark your current level of efficiency if the initiative is about improvement of overall operational efficiency? Now, how do you do that benchmarking? The benchmarking can start with, data. That data may reside in your existing ERP system, that how do you currently operate. Or data may actually be generated through the implementation of the new technology itself, right? For example, the use cases that I spoke about. Now, when you put IoT sensors, you can actually generate a lot of data about your energy consumption patterns, your temperature maintenance patterns, right? Gone are the days when, you would wait for the energy bill at the end of the month. Now you have actually real-time measurement of that data. So, you essentially, work with your partner on technology and sort of say that, look, let's benchmark properly so that there are no questions asked about the benefit of that technology is there or not. So you essentially measure your as-is state using technology or using your data from the ERP system. Then deploy the effects of those technology. For example, we do automated controls. So we don't, sort of deploy controls for the first 25 days, 30 days, right? You just benchmark data, and then you sort of deploy controls, and then you see the benefit, right? So there is a clear pre-post, comparison, which gives the comfort, at all levels within the organization that, there is a measurable and a quantifiable benefit. Having said that, I think, there are a lot of intangible benefits of the technology which are sort of hard to quantify, right? We were just talking outside that, how do you sort of measure, the whole effect of just maintaining a comfortable ambience in a store, right? How does that affect customer psyche, right? There is a focus on, driving down the energy consumption, but are we making enough comfortable environments as well? Because that's why we are putting the air conditioning, lighting, everything here on. So I think those things are equally important to sort of understand that there are intangible benefits of technology that comes along with the quantifiable ones.
So Rahul, we would also want to understand what is the role of change management in the success of various technological initiatives that are prevalent currently.
Yeah, so change management, I think, is super important. Overall, I think technology, can't solve everything. At the end of technology is used by all of us. We are all humans. We are not robots. So therefore, it's very important that, the organizations look at technology in conjunction with the change management, because a lot of technology initiatives fail because people just don't embrace them. People don't adopt them. So somebody at a senior executive level, a C-level executive will approve the technology, but then when it comes to the ground level, those initiatives fail. And I think, it has to start from the top, from the perspective of outlining that what is the role of this technology, communication at all levels, that what is the expected, or what are the expectations from this technology. And then I think, once you sort of set up all the expectations, communication, everything is done, there has to be a proper process for exception handling, because exceptions are bound to happen. When you roll out any technology, whether it's ERP or, the technology business that we are in, which is, just a very simple example. We automate the operation of air conditioning lighting systems at retail chains, which means that we're taking the control away from the guy who was at the store, right? Now, he's not going to like it. When he used to come in the morning, the cleaning staff is going to come in, they're going to switch on the entire air conditioning of the store. Now, the guy can't do it because it's all sort of operated automatically by the system, right? So therefore, they will tinker with the technology, they'll try to bypass systems. But I think if you don't set up processes around accountability, exception handling, those initiatives go for a toss. And then, when it comes back to the measurable benefit of that technology, or it's about quantification of the benefit, that obviously is going to go down. And then somebody is going to say, look, the initiative hasn't sort of delivered the results. So So I think communication, alignment, methods for exception handling, accountability, all of them are important, and equal emphasis has to happen for change management along with the technology adoption.
So Nitin, I just want to know about the new, digital initiatives from the financial perspective that you would want to kind of speak upon.
So I did touch upon, we are looking at SAP implementation, going into SAP HANA 4. A few things which we have already done in the recent past. We have got a BOBI, which is again sitting on SAP. The transformation which we did more from a finance perspective was looking at a global truth. So the number needs to be fed at one point of time in the entire organization. We don't need to re-input it again in the system. And that was the premise under which we started BOBI. Ariba, we have just implemented. We are looking at some benefits. We're still implementing in the implementation phase. Few things which we are trying to look from a standalone perspective is how can we benchmark? When you get external data, there are a lot of external data which is there in the market, which is not there in my system. How can I bring in that external data for benchmarking and helping the business teams? So, for example, leasing team. If I want to compare two brands, can I compare it within my mall? Can I compare how they are performing in the high street? Looking at the numbers, what other softwares or software service providers are providing. So we're trying to build something where we can help our leasing team to get prepared, and while they are going for any negotiation or discussion with the retailers, at least they should have complete information on that. So these are few initiatives which we have taken more from a finance perspective here.
And how is technology able to help the malls specifically to enhance customer satisfaction?
I would call it customer experience.
Yeah, customer experience.
So I remember during, you had asked me a question, what was the situation pre-COVID and post-COVID? I think pre-COVID, these were more shopping places. And I think post-COVID, it has become more of a community center. I'm sure, that's the only place in an urban life where we actually go and try to experience it.
Right, there are a lot of activations.
And, so normally earlier we used to go, with a very particular, shopping in my mind. And the dwell time was very less. Now, normally a dwell time is, for an average individual who goes inside the mall, is around 2 hours. If you're going and watching a movie, then probably it is little more than that. So I normally look at the entire customer journey, which is the road from which you are coming inside, how is the traffic movement, how you are getting inside, the ingression and how you are going out. The entire experience is kind of is our responsibility, and then that's how we are looking at technology at each interface, how they can help us in easing, your life, my life, me as a consumer as well. And while you are inside the mall, as he rightly pointed out, what is the air conditioning? Can I check air conditioning at different points of time? Can I check air conditioning at all the exits and entries, where the customer is coming inside? Can I provide technology? And so the new technology which probably we are now looking at is, can we look at our leasing strategy along with my customer profiling which is coming in? So how many females coming in, what age group? As somebody rightly said, from face recognition I can make out how many males, females, what is the age group, a rough idea we can get. So can I put my leasing or a brand mix as per my age profiling, demography profiling? Another software which we are trying to use now is, whichever car is coming in, can we look at the traffic data and look at, from which pin code that car is coming to? Can I put my promotions over there to increase my footfall? So these are few ones. I can go on and on. There are a number of them. I think it's more focused toward getting a proper customer experience when you're inside the mall and while you're coming in and going out of the mall.
So Samir, I would want to know from the technological use case, how we can kind of utilize it in the supply chain inventory management systems or solutions.
Yeah, so for QSR, supply chain is very important, very vital. Why? Is you need to have, first of all, geographically, the organized QSR is widely spread across the country. You need availability of the ingredients at all time in all restaurants. it should also be of the best quality and an optimized shelf life, right? So that's very critical. And the second challenge is for ingredients, you will have multiple suppliers, multiple vendors located in a different part of the geography, and they need to supply to various locations. So there is complexity to the situation. But buying and supply, before that, the most critical part is forecasting, because you need to do right ordering. And to right ordering, you need to have right forecasting. Forecasting itself has a lot of challenges. For each restaurant, it will have its own different business mix. It will have its own challenges. There would be, in our country, it's region-wise, various events happen. So by events, the variation happens on the forecast. So the forecast tool is also one of the very important in supply chain to tell you what exactly you need to order. That's the first thing to start. Second is, when you have to order, you need to have complete synchronization with the suppliers, so that in today's world of GST reconciliations and e-way from a finance perspective, all this need to be auto-reconcile and throw reconciliations on a real-time basis, right? And the last piece is on the distribution, because the technology also helps for the growing business. When you keep coming with new and new restaurants year on year, very important to keep optimizing your truck routes, optimizing your transportation cost, right. And that's again the technology. So if you see that throughout the supply chain, right, from forecasting, whether to do ordering, whether you have to do reconciliation, whether you have to do transportation, everything needs technology.
And how technology can enhance operational efficiency and focus upon the growth driving mechanism also is something we can share.
Yeah, sure. So QSR means quick service at a best guest experience. Customer comes first, and I think I spoke about how the customers, but I think most importantly today's digital era, you are capturing customer journey, as I was mentioning earlier, right from ordering till billing. You also know what payment modes he does it, what menu preferences he likes. So all this information is very important. Now, to make this information more efficient, there are tools, AI tools, which helps you to evaluate this information, data into an information, and provide insights. What kind of insights? For example, what kind of customer we have? What is his like? What is his preference? Okay, Shravan, he doesn't eat non-veg, but otherwise he likes veg, non-veg only, right? Then, when you go to geography, you need to know, okay, this geography has a particular preference. This geography likes spicy. This geography doesn't like spicy. Now, all this analysis is possible through technology. Okay, so that is on the customer, because customer is first, at the center of everything. I think Rahul touched upon on the optimization of the cost efficiency. How he spoke about, and I think few points I will just take from his point, is three things very important from an IoT platform from energy perspective. I think saving of cost is the last. Most important is the kind of systems can be placed, the kind of controllers can be placed, which geographically the environment differs in our country, right? So like Mumbai will have a different climate and Bangalore will have a different climate. The systems helps you to control your internal restaurant temperature considering what is going outside. And that can be solved through this technology, right? So that is guest experience which comes first. The second part too is it also tells you the health of your assets. Absolutely. So if your assets is consuming utility units higher, that means something has gone. There is always a standard laid down for any equipment. When you buy an equipment, you have a standard power consumption. If it varies, that means the asset is not working fine and you need to immediately address it. Now this is what technology helps to prioritize where your guys should be first running and maintaining your equipments. And the last thing is, after getting all this, I think some costing makes sense. Yeah, so this is, I think that means.
So you're gonna, sorry, you're gonna move me out of job very quickly. You understand IoT a lot more than I am.
So Yatin, I would just want to understand about the CFO's priorities when it comes to digital transformation space, and like how would you kind of, if you have certain use cases that you would want to kind of share along with us.
I think the CFOs are here to talk about the priorities, but still, I think what are my observations is what I'm going to talk primarily of in the recent past. I think the profitability measurement is something which I've seen which is coming up top of the list in a way. I think post-pandemic, things have changed significantly, including on the cost front. I guess we all seen, what happened, to the China import, the freight doubling up, and everything is boiling down to the product cost finally. And of course, the operation cost also has gone up significantly as well now. So accessing the right information, and one of the key area that I have observed where people asking us frequently on how do I know more or less near real time what is my profitability per store, per SKU. So that's kind of a top of the thing that I have picked up. In fact, we build certain products on that so that we could cater to those requirements quite swiftly. So that's the first and foremost priority that we've seen coming in from the retail CFO perspective. Secondly, there is significant of expansion as well. So a lot of new stores, I'm sure you would have seen. I mean, the Burger King is also expanding, and everybody is putting up more and more stores. So a lot of capex also is happening. Yes, yeah. So a lot of outlay in terms of opening new store. And of course, there is a big cost involved. It's not a small cost, right? Again, planning that cost, controlling that cost, and managing that cost, right? So there, how do you create some kind of a templatized model which can be implemented? Because you would see Burger King looks Burger King everywhere. It's more or less similar. It's not going to be very different, right? Likewise, Starbucks, you will see Starbucks everywhere similar. So we built again some solution around same thing. So that's another thing which came up as well because of the heavy outlay. Also, there's a shift in the consumers. There's a shifting consumer preferences. It's a complex puzzle really in terms of who is buying what and why. I don't think anyone has solved this problem yet in terms of if I bought red, why I bought red, right? Or I bought it for Inorbit or Infinity, nobody knows about it. Right? So there is a complex mathematical solution that people are trying to understand or build, rather I would say, where why a customer is not buying from me and buying from someone else, people are trying to figure out, right? Or people bought one, then one person bought a service from me, and next time he didn't buy it from me, or he turned up after a year. Why? How can I get that person, early on, really? So that's more from the business point of view, and this data is visible in finance. So there are CFOs who have kind of discussed with us that is there a way we can build some model, a data model? Again, now we all know about AI, ML, and stuff like that, right? Which we believe that anything around the earth, complex, it can solve, right? But I don't think it can solve this problem or answer this question, really. It possibly can attempt, and it can throw some probabilities, but still, it's not a straightforward question to be answered as well now. So that's another thing that we've seen as well, which is coming up as another, how do I increase retention? How do I get conversion, more and more conversion? That's another thing which I've said. These are top three things that, I have, kind of observed of late, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I'd also want to know what is happening in the digital space for the critical CFO challenges, like for planning when it comes to strategy making and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's another space, especially for CFOs. As I said in the beginning, the role of CFO is changing now. And I think in the earlier conversation, I think I heard that CFOs are kind of becoming entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
And I agree to that, more or less, because CFO kind of, as I said in the beginning, that they kind of get involved into multiple areas, right? Because finally everything comes to P&L. Agar P&L red ho jata hai, to who is going to be questioned? It's going to be CFO, right? So obviously the smart CFOs obviously want to make sure that they are, on the right side and not on the left side. So, so obviously for handling those kind of, I mean, I would say, being in control, there are number of innovative solutions available now in the market. A lot of interesting stuff happening around the space. As it's mentioned about S4HANA, they are implementing already Inorbit. Working is implementing as well. So I think that's something obviously is going to enable them to run more efficiently, right? Talking about specifically planning, strategic planning, we talk about how we plan our growth and stuff like that. There are number of innovative solutions available. We're working with one of the leading solutions right now, where we could actually help the business leaders, including CFOs, find out the blind spots in the business, right? Today, you know that your revenue is dropping, or a particular product is not doing well. For maybe, you can find out 2 or 3 reasons that my marketing is not great, my sales guy is not great, or, something direct, right? But what is your data telling? Something that also needs to be looked at, right? You may look at data, again, looking at the primary, reasoning, or you would possibly look at the spends and stuff like that. But there are solutionable which can actually look at some of the, indirect correlation with the happenings in the business and help business leaders to take a right decision, so that they could, correct the course, bring it back to normalcy, or, I mean, they can take some action based on the insights. So there are a number of solutions available. We are also building another AI/ML ChatGPT based solution, which is actually going to be more like a digital assistant to CFO, which is going to look at their existing data more or less on a real-time basis and throw or answer some of the queries that they might have for their business, and then obviously that can generate actionable, some kind of a action plan based on that. So yeah, technology is evolving, and number of stuff are happening on the finance on the overall business side.
Thank you. So we'll have 10 minutes more in hand. It'll be great if anyone is wanting to ask any question from the audience. Yeah. Can you pass on the mic over there, please? Yeah.
Sorry, I have a question. So based on your experience, have you seen AI-based modeling which can forecast revenue, and how much is the efficiency with which if that is the case? So sorry, no. Yatin.
Okay. That's an interesting question. I guess there were a model who can, really give you a high accuracy number based on the some kind of analytics. I would say it does, give you a great degree of insight into where you are focused, because finally your data tells you everything. I would say about 85 to 90% of accuracy, you could generate a forecast, which is more of a near term, really. So if you're using a data of, let's say, a year, and you want to forecast for next quarter, today's model can predict with an accuracy of 85 to 90% what it could be, the revenue numbers as well, including factoring seasonality as well. If you have a longer data, about 2 or 3 years data in your system, and you want to make a prediction based on that, I mean, a forecasting based on that, it can definitely give you 85 to 90% accurate forecasted number.
So I want to answer that. So if you want to use it, if you're planning to use it, don't use it. We tried using it. Look, what happens is, this model is not a predictable forecasting model. So what happens is basically they look at last 3 years data, and then they predict so we are in a mall business. I have around 126 stores in one of the malls. And we have 3 years data, what malls, what brands are selling for last 3 years. But what we have perpetually seen is there is always a shift in the consumer behavior. And we were not able to even predict what he is talking about is 85%, but not even 50% right in that case. The growth parameters for individual segments, and when I say segments, so say for example, within fashion, you have a unisex, which is a particular segment. Now, my prediction from last 3 years, there's a 5% year-on-year growth, which should happen in a particular brand. But now what we have seen is there's already a degrowth which is happening. Let's understand what are the factors. There's a competition which has come next door within the mall. Second is the high street, the same brand has already opened a bigger store. 3, the consumer behavior itself has got changed. So there was something which was in fashion, the new merchandise which has come in, and probably it's not hitting the same kind of fashion. So this is just an example. I can go on and on from a segment perspective. Before COVID, how many times you went out and you were eating out? I would say hardly once in a week. Now practically second day you're ordering from Swiggy, or you're planning to go to a new restaurant. Third, your brand loyalty has gone down. When I say there's a particular brand, I don't want to take names, but we have very loyal brand customers. I think that loyalty has gone down. So there are quite a bit. There's a bit of catch over there while you're using this predictive forecasting. We did try using BOBI in SAP, but the results was quite different.
Thanks.
Okay.
I can still take one question.
If it's a very quick question.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
take a quick question.
No? Okay.
All right, that's it. Thank you.